Alright guys, I decided to remake my start of the yarn coiling project video because I think the last one that I did on YouTube, I was trying to record over the class, which is tough. Hopefully the sound on this is a little bit better, not trying to talk over everybody. A little more mellow, let's just say. I have my materials. You guys remember, you need to have, for this coiling project, about a wingspan, in my case about 6 feet of yarn of your choice, about 6 feet or wingspan of the core, in this case it's like a twine or a jute, and our little plastic needle. Okay, I'm going to line up my core to the left. I have the end right here in the middle and the core is going off to the left. I'm going to take my yarn, put it right here in the middle, and then have the rest of it going off to the right. Okay, then find at the far right the end of the yarn, and I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle. Now you guys, the eye of this needle is pretty big. If I just kind of pinch my yarn, push that through, it's really easy to thread. I've said it in class before, too many times I've gone to help somebody and their yarn's all soggy. I know they use their mouth to do that. It's best to just pinch that. Alright, now if getting started is pretty easy, getting all that set up is easy, the rest is pretty tough. What I'm going to do is lay my yarn on top of the core and go about an inch away from the end of the core and pinch it together. And I'm going to start coiling this around the core, and I'm coiling it to the left. I'm coiling it towards my pinch, so I've got to move every once in a while. Okay? Now, as I'm doing that, you'll be able to see that I'm coiling around the core and I'm coiling around the end of the yarn. This way the yarn will never come unwound. It's buried under the coils. Okay? After you get about an inch down the road here, go ahead and I'm going to bend right in the middle of this coil, bend that in half. Alright? If you can hear that, it sounds like my computer's about to take off. Now, I'm going to continue coiling this. This time, I'm going around the core, around the end of the yarn, and around the end of the beginning of that core. Alright? And I'm going to coil it all together. I just go around all of it. And as you can see, I've developed a little bit of an eyelet here. Okay? You can see that. Now, after I get another inch or so, I'm going to go ahead and bend that over again. And when I bend that over, it almost looks like a little backwards letter E. Okay? This is where I take the needle and I'm going to thread this needle into that little eyelet hole to hold this together. Now this coil project is going to be spiraling around. Okay, so I'm going to continue. I've got that stitch holding it in, but you can see if I let that loose, it starts to come apart. So hold this tight, continue to wrap around, and I'm just wrapping around that core, probably 4 or 5 turns around, and give it another stitch into that same hole for now. Okay, we're not going to stitch in the same hole forever, but we are the first time around, the first rotation. Okay, pull that through. Now, as you saw, that took a little while to get that thread all the way through. That is the purpose of me only cutting an arm's length of yarn. If I cut more than an arm's length, I'm pulling that through each stitch forever. So I try to limit it to no longer than my wingspan. Okay, again, I just continue about 4 or 5 turns and give it another stitch. And I'll say it's still in the center, but I'm really close to my stitches being in the coil next to it in the future. Okay, now you can see what I've got here. Got to start. It's starting to spiral. I'm going to continue here. If I go around, I'm still kind of holding this tight. Go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold this together, and now I see another little hole I can, or a coil I could stitch into, whatever's closest. Alright, I'm not trying to stitch far away. Now that this is a color changing yarn, you'll be able to see the stitches as I go. Alright, I want to get that right next to it. Okay, so I'm always trying to keep my coils right next to each other. Now I'm always pinching this tight. Get back around. I only do the twists around the core itself. Too many times I'll see kids and they'll start coiling around everything. It's really just around the core, and then I'm always kind of holding it up next to where I want it to go. This thing doesn't really know it wants to be a spiral yet, but it's going to be. Okay? And I keep going around. Alright? I bring this up and around, coil this around the core 4 or 5 more times, and go ahead and give it out. You can see where my stitches are going into different places. Let me get this one in. This little stitch. Oh, got a knot. Sometimes if you get a knot, just kind of pull this out. Pull this out. Don't try and pull it through, or your knot's gonna get tighter. But just as simple as that, and the knot's out. You just kind of back it out. All right, there we go. So you can see my stitches are wherever's closest. All right, whatever core is closest. Now I'm gonna go around this again. Same thing, over and over and over. I'll go 4 or 5 turns, and go ahead and give it another stitch. Whatever. Right here is the closest core, or the closest coil. Give that a stitch. Alright. Now, for this video, unlike the old one I had, I am going to get to the end of this yarn and go ahead and show on this video how to add a new piece of yarn. It actually is a lot easier than starting this out. Okay. Now, keep rotating.
I think you're going to get some more yarn.
Oh, go ahead. You can get some more. I was making a video, Keisha. Oh, should I put your name on it? I'm making it one that's not so cringy, because it kind of was. Okay, so now I'm going to keep going around here. I want to leave, before I switch and get new yarn, I'm going to go ahead and leave enough that I'll be able to get some coils, be able to give it a stitch. So I'm really close to adding new yarn. See ya. You can come anytime. Alright, I'll go ahead, give it another stitch. Let's see, I'm really close to getting some new yarn. By the way, you can see how this is taking shape. It is kind of a spiral. This is the same beginning as this big cat rug that I'm making, or this one made with jute, or raffia. You can make this with raffia. I've made these out of raffia. I've made these out of yarn. You can make them with anything. During COVID, I had the kids making them out of Payless and marsh bags. I guess probably Payless at that point. So the same technique, same process. Now I'm getting close here. Let me just move this back over. Let me give it a couple more turns. This is kind of the speed as you get used to this that you'll start moving. You just coil, 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 stitch, coil, 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 stitch until you get near the end. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we're right about. Actually, I'm going to get some more yarn right now. Let's get a new piece. I'll try and use the same color. Okay, once again, I've got no more than a wingspan, and I am going to go ahead and take my new piece of yarn and I'm going to lay it down along the core. Alright, like this. Then I'm going to continue wrapping just like I was before, except this time I have the yarn being coiled up in there. Okay, about 4 or 5 coils. Give it a stitch, and I can, right now it's in there about 4 or 5 coils. I don't want to pull on this, but it is holding it in. If I have some more yarn, go ahead and coil it in another few turns. I just need to make sure I have enough yarn, enough length, that I'm going to be able to get my needle, it's got to be longer than the needle itself, to give it that final stitch. Okay, pull this back up and through, and then I'm going to take the needle off of the old yarn, and I'm going to move my new yarn over to the left or to the right and put my needle onto the yarn. Okay, then remember my new yarn is buried under here, about 8 stitches under. I'm going to go ahead and lay the old yarn along the core now and just start coiling around it and around the core, both. And eventually, after I get around both, the new yarn's end will be buried and the old yarn's end will be buried. Again, just like at the beginning, nothing can come unwound if you bury all of the ends. Okay, that's really important. I think this morning I heard a student tell me they had one where it came unwound. That if you get these ends buried underneath your coils, it can't. You know, again, this new yarn is probably, if that started right there at the orange, it's probably back into there. It's not going to come unwound. Okay, and you can see I still have, hope you can see, there you go, I still have this much yarn. I just continue, I don't cut it, I just leave it there till it's gone. There's no, once I've actually cut my materials, there's really no need for scissors. There's no knots involved in this. It's just all wraps, just coiling and wrapping around and around and around. I tend to do this a little tight. Some people will have them a little looser. Either one's fine. To do this a little tighter, I do have to kind of pinch it and kind of tug on the yarn a little bit. And you can see I've just kind of let this through as I coil around. I'm always kind of holding this together. If you wanted, you could hold it out here, but because I do this tightly, I kind of have 2 fingers holding onto the whole coil, and then my thumb and my index finger hanging onto the core, and I just let it slide through. Okay, and then give it a stitch and pull that through. All right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I'll probably make another video in the coming days. There is going to be another video showing how to add more of the core, because we can add more. I also would like to show how this could be not just a flat project, but could actually be 3-dimensional. Okay, and how you can make these coils go, you know, this started out the same, it's a, you know, flat round just like this, and then it's at one point I'll start coiling and making it go up. But I could show that in a future video when we add more of the core. Okay, this is just my needle holder. Okay, so don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that little bell. Until next time, there we go, back to the computer. I'll see ya.